So I would love to set the record straight today.
And so the assisted living folks can go outside.
Yes.
They can exit and walk the whole property of the grounds. So we don't control any of that.
They
They're
have their
able to
residence rights. Yes. I welcome regulations as long as we understand that the importance can never be taken away from the care of our residents.
I think you touched on a great point there too. Not only the person that's being placed, but also the impact on that caregiver, the amount of life that it could potentially give them back as well.
And I've met so many people that, get so excited because they got to leave their mom and dad at home till the very end, and they never had to go into a home. I can't quite understand that because I'm local and I'm here and we're involved. Some of these companies, local owners don't even come into their facilities. Around the Table with Vickie. Just like gathering around the dinner table with loved ones and friends, we're here to share stories, insight, and inspiration.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And welcome back to another episode of Around the Table with Vickie. I'm your co-host, Chris Runk, and to my right, as always, is my mother, Vickie Runk.
It is a chilly, sunny day here in Lynchburg, Virginia, but it's been a good start to the week. Hello, everybody.
It certainly is cold outside, and I think in the foreseeable future, it's going to stay cold, Mom.
Yes, we're having a little spurt of Arctic blast here in Lynchburg, as most of the country is experiencing it right now, but we're just having to bundle up and come on out.
Throw on those extra layers because you're going to need it. I'm not a fan of the cold. So.
I know. Yeah.
Well, we just want to pick up right where we left off last week. We were having a great conversation about maybe when is it time that you should be looking into coming off the holidays. You're noticing mom and dad, grandma, grandpa is having a little extra needs at home. Maybe you left vacation thinking, wow, that was a lot of work.
Eye-opening as well.
Yeah, and we had a great conversation, so we're just going to jump right back in today.
Well, let's do it.
And pick up, and I want to talk about maybe for those folks that don't understand the difference in the different levels of care, right? So you're talking independent living, assisted living, Alzheimer's and dementia needs. All those have different care levels and different needs. Let's just start off right with independent living, Mom. Can you kind of help break those down for folks?
Absolutely, and I would love to. There's been some misconception, I think, out there. I look a lot on social media, and anytime we have a resident that's picked up at one of our facilities, there's a slew of people that have a lot of comments about that. And so I would love to set the record straight today, and I think it's necessary. So if one of our facilities is labeled Runken Pratt of Forest, a dementia care facility, or Pearls of Life, a memory care facility, those two facilities are locked and secured. All of our other facilities are not. And that means that we're not doing that level of care in those facilities. And so I think it's really important that people hear that today and formulate different opinions, because I can't get on all those sites and correct all of this. So let's set it straight today. Independent living is for residents that are coming into our program, and we only offer that in 3 locations. So that's Liberty Ridge Independent Living, and there's certain floors on the tower side that we offer that level. That's Willow Ridge, floors 1 and 2. And that's Smith Mountain Lake. We have a towers up there as well. That level of care will mean that that person is only going to get their room, 3 meals a day, and social activities. That is all we do for those individuals. They are not locked in. They may have their vehicle, and they can come and go as they please. There is no care being given to those individuals. Now, as that person starts to age and need more care given to them, we add levels of care on. And sometimes that means they have to switch to a different room. Sometimes we don't, because we're licensed. The entire facility is licensed for assisted living in all of our communities.
So do I hear you say that independent living is really just like that senior having an apartment?
That's
basically
right.
You know, it's maintenance free living. They're getting their meals, but they're free to come and go. They have their own car. So really just apartment style living.
Well, and secured. So we have concierge on staff 24/7 at the door, and the front doors get locked for security. But if they were to go in and go back out, then we're gonna have to call the front desk to get them back in after hours, and they know how to do that. Those residents have been trained on how to use the doors and who to call if they need to get back in. It also means that if they need care of any sort, like if there's an emergency and they've fallen or they feel like they need to go to the emergency room, we have to call 911 to come and give that care because they're not under our care contract at that time. And there's a lot of misconception about that. People in the community just think that they see our residents and they are all locked in and we should be waiting on them hand and foot. And that's just not how the regulations work in the state of Virginia. So once that individual decides I may need medication management, that's a level of care. And then, I may need help with bathing. I may need help with transporting myself to and from the dining room. Then all of a sudden we have a conversation with the family that lets them understand it may be time for assisted living care. And like I said, it could be that you have to move to a different floor. You may have to move to a different room. And we discuss all of that with the family. And we present a care plan at that time on how we're going to do the care. And the family is very involved with us at that time. But again, even in that situation, those buildings may have alarms on certain people. There may be alarms on certain doors to just let us know that, just like you do, in some of your houses, we know when the front door is opening because it'll go front door opening and closing. Those are the kinds of measures that we have in place for assisted living, but it is not a locked, secured facility. If you need a locked, secured facility for your loved one, it has to be memory care. And the doctor has to order that level of care. It's nothing that we decide to do. The doctor has to sign a form, a cognitive impairment form, that says that this individual, in his professional opinion, needs memory care environment.
And so the assisted living folks can go outside.
Yes.
They can exit and walk the whole property of the grounds. I know a lot of seniors get their exercise in that way, and you'll see them out there with their walkers and doing laps around the building, and that's really a means of therapy for them and allows them to get outside and get stimulated. So we don't control any of that.
They have their residence rights. Yes, and we want to make sure. Now, we are monitoring to the best of our ability to make sure that, and if there is changes in their gait, meaning the way they walk, how well they walk, then we start to recommend therapy to the family. We do everything we can to keep them mobile and upright. And then when it gets to where they need a wheelchair, at that point, they typically are not going outside alone. That doesn't mean that on a warm day, the nurses' staff may not push some of these people outside and let them sit in the sun for a little bit, monitored by the CNAs or their staff and caregivers. But it's really common sense. If you can walk on your own and you're not cognitively impaired, you have the right to sit outside or go outside.
All right. Now, leading into Alzheimer's and dementia care, what are some of the standards for that? You mentioned the doctor's orders.
First and foremost, that physician has to fill out a cognitive impairment form that our state inspectors will be looking for the minute they come in, to make sure that every individual that's in that locked, secured environment has a cognitive impairment form that says, in my professional opinion, this resident needs to be secured in a facility. It really just means that they're a flight risk. They're a risk to escape, and we want to make sure that we're protecting them from that. So there's alarms, there's cameras, there's secured environment for them to live in. And not all memory care residents need a locked, secured environment. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of seniors that just have mild dementia, that they can't remember time and date, but they can perform all the other skills that they need. It really is a decision that our staff begins to make. And once that person gets outside If they get outside and becomes an endangerment to themselves or others, and once we're moving from assisted living, we've taken care of them for a while, but they're starting to show signs that we may need to do the locked, secured environment, we contact the physician, the family immediately, get all the appropriate forms, and we secure them at that point. There's really no second chances with that. So once an individual goes outside to where it threatens their life, they can no longer stay in assisted living.
So it normally takes some kind of act for that switch to happen, whether most of the time it's their endangerment to themselves or those around them, right?
Exactly, yes. And the other misconception that I'm seeing, here locally is that we need to let officials know. We are licensed by the Department of Social Services, and we are required to let our inspectors know when an individual gets out of our facility and becomes an endangerment to themselves. So we turn that in ourselves to our inspectors. There's never really any trying to hide it. We want to make sure that we immediately get them in the secured environment.
That's called self-reporting,
That's
right?
right. We self-report. We're required to, as well as every other assisted living in the state of Virginia.
I think that's a lot of misconceptions there. A lot of people don't realize that this is a heavily regulated industry.
Absolutely.
And there's really, standards don't really change much between facility to facility. Everybody's under one standard, and everybody has to meet that standard, and really in order to be open and provide care, correct?
That's correct. And it's not just our facilities, it's every facility that's assisted living, independent living, memory care facility. It's licensed by the Department of Social Services in whichever state you live, and those standards are passed along to us, and they're changed on a regular basis. Usually yearly, we'll get a new set of standards. And I will say that over the last 33 years, I've seen our standards get more and more tight and head towards more of a nursing home model, which I predicted about 10 years ago. And that enables, I'm not afraid of regulations. I welcome regulations as long as we understand that the importance can never be taken away from the care of our residents. That has to be put at the very beginning of our list of what to do for the day. If we have to spend so much time on paperwork, that's when I get to be like, there's only 8 hours in a shift. We got to be able to devote some time to those residents to give good quality care. So if the regulatory board can stay within a happy medium of that to where we can get all the work done that we're required to do, but residents' care comes first, then I'm all about the standards.
I do want to talk a little bit about the precursor on those levels of care, independent living, assisted living, and Alzheimer's dementia. It's something that you're very passionate about and something that we're able to finally offer for the last 2 years. We've talked about it many times on this show, and it's kind of that entry point, and that's our adult daycare center. There's not many folks in the area that offer that. So talk a little bit about maybe how that plays into caring for one from start to finish.
Well, adult daycare is before we even get to a facility stage. It's like we talked on the last show about trying to keep mom and dad at home as long as possible. One of the things I talked about is an adult daycare as being a nice entryway, a nice path to begin to prepare them for 24-hour care. And so right here, 1208 Perivale Road, right here in the Runkin Pratt strip mall here that we have with all of our stuff. Right inside our big building is Runkin Pratt Daytime. And we also have talked about on previous shows, but those that have not heard, recently, we do have a veterans contract. And so VA residents are more than welcome, and we just get that approved. There is a process, like all of you know, that deals with the Veterans Administration. There is a process and paperwork that has to be filled out, but they are paying for your care here, and they are paying for transportation as well. So there's a 7-8 mile radius that our bus goes out to pick the residents up in from their homes, and sometimes the wives will meet us at a closer location for us to be able to get them and bring them here. We open at 7:30 every morning. We close at 6 Monday through Friday. Some residents choose to just come a couple days a week, and then by the time 6 months have hit in, we've noticed that they're coming 5 days a week. We have beauty shop available every Wednesday, and we can get baths in that facility as well, and a full array of garden growing with your tower gardens. Pratt Chapel constantly has a lot of volunteers coming in to sing, play music, entertain. We love Sweet Tea. She comes in all the time and sings for us. So many different groups. Thomas Rhodes got their choir that comes in a lot. We have different pastors that come in and take care of delivering a message of hope to our veterans. So we're really, really excited about having that as it's just a trial run to make sure that they're going to do good in assisted living. And most of our residents that come to our daytime center, 95% of them end up in our care facilities as well.
Well, it kind of sounds fun to me. It sounds like you kind of go back to school.
We do. Yeah.
You get picked up on the bus, and
That's
you get
right.
dropped off, and you get socialization, you get food,
Yeah.
you get activities. You probably have gym class too. It sounds
we
fun.
have a great outdoor patio, because you helped me facilitate that. You're getting ready to start a sensory room in the next 2 months, which will be really cool for those residents to be able to enjoy. The movie theater, we have a great staff that develop great close relationships because it's a small environment.
Well, we just defined the different levels of care and what they mean and how they interact with each other. So the next step, you're going to maybe tour a facility, or you're having home health come into your home. What are some of the key questions?
Well, it's different for the home health, so I'll start there. So with home health, I think you should ask the home health company, how far of a radius do you travel out to? And I think the closer that radius is to home, the better provisions that you'll get for mom or dad. So if they go an hour out, hour and a half out, you really need to think twice about that, because how long is it going to take for them to get to you should you need something, especially with hospice? You want to make sure that radius is closer to home. So ask that question. Ask to see their regulatory standards. Make sure that you can look them up online and that there hasn't been any problems with their license, or there hasn't been any reports of any kind of substandard care. And then you want to make sure that when you're interviewing those home health agencies, that you have a really good feeling, that you sit down and you feel very firm that this is the right agency for you. As a family member, you're going to know in your heart who you want to partner with. I can't explain it. I can just tell you that it is a click that happens, that you just know this is the company I want to go with. And then heading into assisted living or independent living or memory care, it is the very same thing. I've said it over and over again on this show. Our company is not for everybody. We don't always make a perfect match. And so if that's the case, find a community in which you feel good about, that your questions have been answered. I've said before, you got to look at their write-ups. How many inspections have they had? Take into light, like we discussed before, that it is the inspector's jobs, whether it's our company or a competitor, to find something wrong. So they're going to be searching for those items because it just makes us better. And sometimes we don't fill out the paperwork correctly, and we may get a write-up for it, or the call bell wasn't answered in time, and we may get written up for it, or the paint was wrong on the wall. They didn't paint it the right color, and it had some stripes in it. I mean, I've heard it all. Light bulbs were missing, whatever. And again, when we get our regulatory standard board coming in and looking at us, that's holding us to standards. It's making us better. We've got to fix that within 30 days. So with whatever we're getting rid of for, we've got to send our inspector a plan of correction, and that's making us better. It's making us stronger. There is no doubt, and I would argue with any facility owner or administrator that we all feel the same way, that since COVID, our industry has taken a hard knock. It is very difficult to find young ladies or young men that want to come into this field and give that much of themselves. So we're constantly trying to figure out ways to engage with our employees, make them feel at home. And lots of times they'll hop from one facility to the other for a quarter more an hour, and then they'll be well, they don't pay as well as you do. It's a quarter, or it could be $1 or whatever. And we do try to retain staff. It costs us more to lose a staff than to retain them. So there's this whole debacle of there's not enough staff. staff. And I would say right here today that is true. It is a fight that we are all fighting to get enough staff to take care of the residents. But it's really something I've done for 33 years. It's nothing unusual. COVID did put a little sting on us there, but we're constantly trying to develop programs in which our staff want to stay with us. Families have a big part to play in this because we need to support our caregivers. And sometimes when a family's having a bad day or mom and dad's not doing as well as they thought they should be that day, all of a sudden it becomes the CNA's fault and the family can take it out on them. So we all hold each other to standards that we want to uplift our staff all the time. So I think you just want to ask the questions. What's your regulatory standards? What are your inspection records looking like? And that's a public thing that everybody can look at. Want to make sure that when you go in, it's a clean environment. You want to make sure that you feel good in the area. And I know that sounds silly, but it's not. If you know, you know. And you want to make sure that, you're looking at the staffing patterns. Now, we're held to regulatory standards. Just because a family member would like for us to have one staff to every 5 resident doesn't mean that's what the standards are. So make sure you know what the standards are, because a facility or a company is going to go by the standards in which those regulatory standards have been written. Memory care is a little bit more staff per client ratio. Assisted living, it's a lesser standard. It's also a misconception to think that we are going to have a staff member, a CNA, a caregiver sit in the room with your mom and dad every hour of the day. It's not going to happen. If you require that kind of standard for mom and dad, you're going to need to bring a sitter in that is just a companion sitter to make sure she is getting, all of those moments that we're not able to give, because it is a community, it is a facility, it's group living. So you're only thinking about your mom, but there's 70 other moms in there. And so I think there's a misconception from the public at times that we can give one-on-one care, and we cannot.
Talk a little bit about, because this is such a huge aspect of it, in my opinion, making sure that loved one that you are looking to get some help or get placed, making them feel like it's part of their decision.
Yeah, I go back to what we said earlier last week, that the earlier you can get to this topic, so the younger your mom and dad is, to start those conversations. And just say, how would you like for me to handle this? And then as they begin to age, if you've still not been able to get answers from them, you just want to reapproach every time. I want the best for you, Mom, so help me help you get that. How would you like for me to continue on with the thinking of how we're going to care for you or Dad during the next few years? And if you really just can't get to it, and some people can't, it's going to take probably a hospital stay to where she's got a UTI, or Dad's fallen, or a hip's been broken, or there's a major illness that's been handed down by a physician. And then you want to sit with that physician and have the conferences with your mom or dad about what is best for them. So the physician, a trained, licensed doctor, can help you on your journey at that point.
Talk a little bit about the benefits of senior living once they get into the home. We're talking about better nutrition for them, the ability to combat loneliness through activities and connectability with other seniors. Talk a little bit about...
Well, you just named 2 of the top ones.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it's a 24-hour around-the-clock, we're open for business scenario inside. But again, those staff members are making rounds. They have their certain amount of residents that they're taking care of. Some residents require more care than others. And it also depends on what's going on the floor. If we're in the middle of flu season, we could have 8 residents that need our help right at one time. So you have to give grace to a little bit of that. But you've got 24-hour around-the-clock care. You've got trained registered med aides that are going to administer that medicine that maybe mom or dad have not been taken correctly at home. You'll see a change in their behavior immediately whenever the medications get given on time every day. Nutritional value is such a huge problem with seniors. I dare say that malnutrition could almost be put on death certificates because because residents have been allowed to stay at home and not have the proper nutrition. Because you know as well as I do, it's hard to cook for one person. You're battling loneliness already with just being home alone and not being connected, like you said. But nutrition is huge. All of a sudden, when you start getting all the food groups in and you start seeing her gain weight again, the cognitive impairment can improve at that time because she's been given the proper nutrition. And then the socialization is so important. They wear me out just watching them on Facebook. And you can go to our Facebook pages because they go hard every day with socialization. And it's geared to the level that the resident is on. So not everybody can get on the bus and go to the Colonial restaurant like I saw the other day, or somebody I think was at Outback recently. I watched them go all over the place on Facebook with their posts. But it could be that they're in a wheelchair, and so we're doing art class with them that day.
Well, I think it's important too. This may be a big statement, but I think you could almost say that it can add years onto someone's life.
Oh, it certainly can.
You know,
yes.
the ability to go out into group outings and do those, go out to the restaurants and get their good food and have the fitness levels of classes. You know, every morning I know they do an aerobics class. And just all of that, I think, goes into just allowing that senior to look forward to life.
It boils down to quality of life, you know, rather than sitting at home and saying, now, I kept my mom to the very end at home. What quality of life did she have? And I'll say that one more time because it's so profound. What quality of life did she have? And I've met so many people that, you know, get so excited because they got to leave their mom and dad at home till the very end, and they never had to go into a home. I can't quite understand that because they act like it's something that great that they did for mom and dad. I'm wondering, how lonely were they? How lonely were they? They didn't get to share life with anyone in those last days or the last years. And it's so important. Again, I go back over and over again. This comes from 33 years of experience on my own and 5 years of experience in a nursing home. So we're talking about 38 years. I'm really telling my age here. Depression and anxiety in seniors it is a real thing. And you cannot wrap your hands around how important it is as a son or daughter to understand those two things alone are worth exploring group living.
I want to give you the ability real quick to share a story about a resident or a family that you saw a positive transformation after making the transition.
Well, there's several, but there's one recently that comes to mind, and it was in our memory care facility. And the husband had kept her at home for 7 or 8 years with severe dementia, and he just could not do it anymore. And so we were able to get them in. And I started to see pictures of her being in Elvis concerts and smiling. And the husband was able to experience that with her. And she began to eat more and she began to engage. Now, she did not live long after that, but I was able to hear from the family those last days how important it was just to see mom smile. And just to see the interaction between the two of them be more positive, because he had been the caregiver for so long and he was so worn out that he could not enjoy those small moments. I think if we can give people the small moments in life, and if we can show them that there truly is a difference in catering to that, you know, that anxiety and depression that is inside of all of us when we're disconnected. And goodness, there's nothing that disconnects us more than dementia and Alzheimer's. And if we can really teach families how to enjoy the quality of time versus the quantity of time, then we're doing our jobs.
I think you touched on a great point there too. Not only the person that's being placed, but also the impact on that caregiver, the amount of life that it could potentially give them back as well.
Yes, absolutely. And there's such a hole there. When a caregiver has spent that much time devoting their whole time and life to that person taking care of them, first of all, that's to be admired, right? It's to be admired. But I'm here to say there's a better way. And there's a way to give you both. And you can have the quality of time will outweigh the quantity of time when it's being done right. All of a sudden, you're being able to minister to both of them. And it's a wonderful thing to me to have families send me, the outcome of placement, because then I know no matter what's being put on Facebook or what people are saying, that we're doing it the right way. Are we perfect? No, but nobody is. I can't be in these facilities to make sure that every caregiver is doing care the right way. I have it set up to where it's pretty tight, okay? I find out, and we take care of things pretty tightly because I'm local and I'm here and we're involved. Some of these companies, local owners don't even come into their facilities. They just there to get the bottom line, and they don't even walk in. They never know what their facility looks like because they've got one here in Virginia and one in New Hampshire or wherever. They got them all over that. We've devoted our time and our life to right here, a 50-mile radius of care. And are we perfect? No. But there's nobody that's more intentional with giving good care than we are.
Well, Mom, sadly, we're out of time. Thank you for providing your insight and knowledge on the topic. Folks, if you want more information, check out www.runkenpratt.com, and you can find a whole layout of everything that we offer. But, Mom, I know you like to end each show with a quote, so I'm going to kick it over to you.
Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. And believe it or not, guys, that's from the late John F. Kennedy. Change is inevitable, and the way we look at it, the way we view it, the way we grasp it is totally up to us. So I'm encouraging everybody out there today that's listening and watching us, embrace the change, be knowledgeable. If you're knowledgeable, that makes you powerful. Until next time, I'm Vickie, and we're right here around the table.